Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Kerbal Space Program brought to you by HeatTap. I know this is kind of weird, but I've been trying for hours to do this dock, and it looks like I may have figured it out. So I wanted to just do a recording to get my first interplanetary docking recorded for you guys. See, this shows you we're making progress. We can be taught. We're just trying to come in nice and slow. Just tap her on home. I have been trying this for an ungodly amount of time, like probably about 10 hours. I have been trying and reloading and quick saving and reloading and quick saving and reloading. And I was originally going to just do this whole mission and then record another mission later using this craft, because this craft is not even named yet. It is simply called Concept 1 and Concept Lander. And I think we're going to name this craft the Jittery Jet in honor of our friend, the Jittery Jet. But this is the first ever docking of two ships that I've ever done in Kerbal Space Program. And I mean, I have done everything from smash into each other at 400 meters a second. I have started crashing into the atmosphere trying to do this. And I'm not sure what a good speed is to dock. All right. We've officially done it. My God, it took me 10 whole hours to do. So let's restart these engines, because we're going to need them for the burn home. That one's already on. That one's already on. That one's already on. That one's already on. And then we're going to shut down the lander's engines so we don't start burning ourselves. I think most of these are already shut down for fuel save. But just so you guys know, what have we done here? Why are we in orbit around Duna? Well, let me show you, because we rescued a new Kerbal. Mitfree Kerman. So what have we done on this trip? Well, we rescued Mitfree, and it looks like some of the... it looks like I did actually damage... I ripped off... On one of my other passes, it looks like I ripped off the comms antenna for the lander here, because it was right here. But she's all ripped off. That was one of the passes. I thought I had ripped off the solar panel, but it turns out I actually ripped off the Communitron, which is good, because frankly, after 10 hours of trying to do this. Alright, now the next thing I wanted to try to do is how do I transfer fuel? How do I transfer fuel here? Um, I'm not sure how to actually transfer fuel here. That's okay. That's okay. I think we'll manage with how it is. But our mission is now done. So the original plan, like I said, I was trying to test to see if this ship would work. That's why it's just called Concept 1. And let me just show you guys real quick before we burn home. The Concept 1 is a combination lander and orbital transfer vehicle. The orbital transfer vehicle needs some tweaking because I forgot to put communications on it first of all. But it's powered by 5 liquid fuel nuclear engines, which reduces the overall weight by a substantial amount. The landing portion, the lander, is powered by 4 Terrier engines and 1 swivel engine. Now, why, you might ask? That might be a little overkill. Maybe. But the lander is designed to be over-engineered, so it's supposed to be able to go on multiple trips. Like, this baby can go to Minmus, it can go to the moon, or the Mun, I'm sorry, the Mun. It can go to Duna. It has multi-purpose built into it. It has not traveled to Eve. We have not been to Eve just yet. But I'm confident that it could get to Eve if it really wanted to. Ooh, but 10 hours. So the original mission plan was to take off from Kerbin. We intercepted Duna right around here. The intercept was actually fairly simple. It didn't take us a whole lot of time to acquire a stable Duna orbit. But the first hurdle that we had was in Concept 1. Concept 1 was powered by a single nuclear engine, and it could not slow us down on the approach to Duna. No matter, I spent about 4 hours trying, reloading. The only stable orbit I got around Duna on that concept, on the original Concept 1, was aero braking at about 8,000 meters above Duna's surface. And it got us a rather eccentric orbit, but an orbit nonetheless. We had Mitfree's pod stuck in Dunar orbit. And so after we did get that eccentric orbit, we just didn't have the power to really toy with the orbits enough, not for my skill level anyway. So we reloaded and rebuilt the Concept 1 to this configuration. We put on 5 nuclear engines, and then the other thing is the lander was grossly underpowered. Like, we crashed into Ike twice because originally it had only 1 of the Terrier engines directly in the center, and that just did not give the thrust we needed to do anything. So I decided to go a little bit overboard and put 3 more Terrier engines on in a 4-way symmetrical configuration. And then I decided to put the swivel head engine on just as a precaution, because I was not sure if 4 Terrier engines would get it off the ground of Duna and into an orbit. So I decided to put on the swivel engine and was like, we could just shut it down if needed. There was no reason not to have it. Yes, it's extra weight, but that extra weight might come in handy if we need the thrust, is the thing. So that's the Concept 1. We're going to rename it to the Jittery Jet when we get back, because this was a prototype. We don't name prototypes until they've proven themselves in some trials, right? So the Jittery Jet is going to be our next generation of nuclear-powered craft. The Getsuga Tensho is non-nuclear powered. It is a chemical-powered rocket only. So I decided that instead of making a Getsuga Mark 12, we have changed so much on this platform that it's not really the Getsuga Tensho anymore. It's not really the Piercer of Heaven. The Getsuga Mark 10 is an exceptional machine, but I think we've reached the limits of what we can do with that platform, and continuing to change things, while acceptable, just doesn't feel right, because it's like if you have a Chevy Silverado and you change everything about it, is it really a Chevy Silverado anymore? Like if you change the frame, the engine, the drivetrain, and you change the cabin, and it looks more like an S10, it's probably more of an S10 than a Silverado. My opinion. But that's the birth of the Jittery Jet. She flies smooth, though. Don't let it fool you. She's not jittery in flight. Alright, now I need to just quickly look up my Duna to Kerbin transfer window and get these boys on their way home. Valentina's aboard. Now, the next challenge we're going to have is I don't know if the lander is going to land in Kerbal atmosphere. I don't think I actually put nearly enough parachutes on it. So if we don't have the fuel to do a semi-powered landing, we could be facing a little bit of trouble. So the return angle for Duna is 75 degrees. So if we draw a line Sorry. I was replying to Taz Jax's text because he just woke up lazy. So we should have more than enough fuel to get home. We have more than enough. But if we draw a line from... Where's Kerbin? Kerbin is over here, yeah. See, we're... You know what we should do? We should go to the tracking station right quick. And by the way, welcome all the new followers. We have seen quite a jump in the last few weeks of followers. If you guys are new, let me know in the comments down below what kind of stuff you're into. So these are the flights that we have open. We can terminate this. I hit X and I didn't mean to. And yeah, we get to see a close-up of the pod. Mitfreeze pod. It's just a Mark II lander can with no monopropellant, no electric charge. So that's that. I didn't mean to do the Space Center. I'm pushing wrong buttons. But since we're back at the Space Center, I can show you guys a little bit. We do have another rescue mission to go on, and I think it's around the Mons orbit. We've been on somewhat of a recruiting drive. So if we scroll down to the Concept 1, this is the Concept 1 on ground stage, and you guys can see that we do need to add a communications array, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. And probably be a good idea. I don't know where I want to put this. We'll put it right here for now. And it might be a good idea to even throw on a, relay. 0.15. Does that stick out? What the hell? What the hell? There we go. No, that doesn't stick out. We can do that. Alright. So what we have... I think I'm pushing the button with my finger. Yeah, see, we tore off the communications antenna on our last almost oopsie poopsie. So we have 1 swivel, 4 Terriers, quite a bit of fuel, just because I think we're going to try to take this to Eve. And I'm not sure what we're going to need for an Eve descent. I'm not sure if this craft is even going to tolerate an Eve. We may have to put a nose cone on the top of this, but I've also been toying with the idea of putting, what do you call it? Where is it at? It's not under here. Is it under command? Nope, it's not here. Payload? Nope, it's not there. Where? Not sure. I'm looking for the one module. Is it under? Yeah, right here. I was thinking about putting the PPD-12 Cupola module on top of it, just because I think it would look cool. Like, if you imagine flipping this upside down and putting it on there, it would increase the amount of Kerbins. Here, we can even... I think that would look pretty cool. But I don't know if I want to do that just yet. It would increase the weight a little bit, but I think it would look really cool. And it would give us one more Kerbin that could go in the lander pod. We could put the pilot in here and have, like, a scientist and engineer down here. And we still don't have ladders, because this was a test flight, mind you. So, this is kind of the plan we're going with. So far, it has tested admirably. We have plenty of Delta V for all things considered. We wasted a lot. I mean, a lot. On, trying to get that rendezvous. Like, we redid our orbit 100,000 and plus 1 times. We gotta rename this bad boy. Since she has proven herself the Jittery Jet Mark 1. Thanks for being a subscriber, Jittery. Thanks for coming in and constantly supporting. It means quite a lot to me. I was also thinking about putting more monopropellant nozzles on, but I don't know. I don't want to go overboard with the mono. I have a tendency to do that. Not go overboard on mono, but go overboard on everything. This craft, the Jittery Jet Mark 1, weighs in at a whopping 1,272.32 tons. Wow, she's a chunky girl. She's a chunky monkey. One thing I do want to do is I want to put the fairing deployment on its own stage. And I'll leave all that for later. We're gonna have to... But we're gonna save craft. We're gonna open craft because we have a mission. Actually, let me go double check that we actually have the mission. Let me go double check. Does not hurt to be sure. So we have a couple of Sentinel contracts that we can do for a pretty hefty fee. This one is a little bit cheaper, but I think we could use an existing one. The length of time you will receive. They do not need to be newly launched. Okay, so we can probably just reuse one that's already in orbit, because remember, all of the Sentinel satellites we do have in orbit have a ridiculous amount of fuel. So this is the mission that we're accomplishing now, and we're going to get a considerable amount on return. This one is only 320,000 Kerbucks, but the thing is it's only around the Mun, so let's go check out the tracking station. Let's see what kind of orbit this Kerbal has found themselves stuck in. Let's see what we have. So it's an extremely low lunar orbit, which is okay. That's nothing wrong with that. And I think we can even launch one of the older Getsugas to accomplish this mission. Because we don't need a whole lot. We're not going to need the capability to dock. We're not going to need the capabilities of the jittery jet. Let's see. Let's see what we can get. We definitely don't want to use the Mark 8 or the Mark 9. Those are definitely more expensive for this mission than we really need. Let's see what the Mark 3 has for us. Oh, the Mark 3. We can even get rid of the science on the Mark 3. What is this one? The Mark 3 command pod. The Mark 3 has 3 seats, right? It does. So conceivably, what's our Delta V? Our Delta V is 6,667. So the Mark III is a very strong potential candidate for this mission. Whoops. Why? It looks like it's powered by the mainsail engine. What is our launch? We could probably lower the thrust limiter to about 70. Let's try that. That's much better. So what I'm looking at here is the thrust to weight ratio. We want this to be about 1.3-ish. 1.3, 1.33 I think is almost perfectly ideal. And then let's see. We activate all the parachutes, the decoupler. In this one, we can lower this substantially because by the time this one kicks in, let's lower this down to 70%. That's going to put us at about a 1.2. Let's lower it even more. 0.94. We really maybe, I don't remember where we're going to be in the atmosphere on this one. Let's see what 60% does. 0.95. Let's do 65%. 1.03. I think that's plenty, because I think, if I remember correctly, the SRBs on this thing are more than capable of getting us up and out of the atmosphere. The mainsail, if we're still in the atmosphere at all, the mainsail will definitely get us out the rest of the way with a 1.03. And then this one we could even lower if we wanted to. And that will increase our delta V just a little bit. But now we need to choose a pilot. And it looks like the only pilot we have available is Hayden, which is okay. And then we're going to put an engineer on board to help with the efficiency of the engines overall. And if you didn't know that, having an engineer on your craft does, I think, increase your efficiency by some amount. Let me see what we have going on up here now. We can get rid of this. I think we need this tool. Maybe not. Control point. Actually, I want to see something before we get too deep into this. Getsuga Tensho. This was the Mark III. The Mark III... Let's just go ahead and reload it. Not a problem. We can redo everything that we've already done. So now that's done. Let's see if we can get rid of this, whatever this is. I don't know what's going on with that. No, it won't let me. Huh. That is strange. I don't even know what that is. Let me see. What is this? It's an aerodynamic nose cone. So why is this so important? Why is it important that this be on the craft? So can I get rid of these now? Well, before I do that, let's go here. Huh. Maybe the Mark III is just really bugged out. Because I can't seem to do what I want to do, so that's fine. That's okay. I can show you guys the Jittery Jet, because we're going to lose a little bit of money on it. We can also use the Mark X. I mean, we're not going to make any money whatsoever. But what we can do is test out if the Jittery Jet will change. Let's go see our thrust to weight ratio. See the thrust to weight ratio on launch is 1.28. which is a little bit lower than I'd really like. So that's okay though, because all we have to do is go turn this up. And then it goes up to 1.42. So what you can do is go here and put in numbers manually. And you can see at 95% thrust, we get 1.35, which I guess is close enough for me. Now, in this stage, we're getting 0.94, which is acceptable. And the other thing we can do on this launch is we could possibly leave the lander can, which I don't remember if it can be piloted remotely. Remote guidance unit. So I think that makes it to where we can pilot it remotely. I'm not 100% sure on that. But if that's the case, we could probably leave this in orbit around the Mun and dock it with the space station that we have started. And docking it with the space station would give us the ability to do lunar missions, because a lot of the times the contracts will say, like, plant a flag on the Mun. And while they're not very lucrative launching the entire vessel, if we could even, with the amount of Delta V the lander has by itself, we could probably even send it to Minmus and back by itself. The next thing that I really want to experiment with is putting a refueling station on the Mun. Or, sorry, the Mun. Because that'll give us the ability to refill the fuel on the space station. So we have pilot, engineer, and engineer. That's going to be just fine. In fact, we're going to move you down to the capsule, the Capula module. Yeah, we're going to do that, because what that's going to do is allow us to leave you at the space station in the lander can, which he has plenty of room and materials in the lander can. Plus, the lander can does attach to the space station, so keep that in mind. He's going to be able to move about just fine. What is his name? Luli Kerman? And that leaves us one empty seat to bring back the Kerbal that we're going to rescue. So that's going to be just fine. And we're going to go ahead and save the craft and launch. And the reason we're doing this now is because if we time warp to a Duna Kerbal transfer window, then the problem we're going to run into is that we're going to lose time on this contract, and I don't want to lose this contract. We're slowly coming up on the place in this playthrough where we're almost done collecting the science tree, so we're going to see how much money we can make while we explore the rest of the Kerbal system. And you guys are going to get a good look at how the Jittery Jet can fly and take off and all the good stuff that comes with this. Jittery Jet is an amazing piece of machinery. I don't know what that hiccup was. Now, something seems to be going wrong here because it's not letting me move the craft at all. Maybe adding that extra module on the lander can just put it a little bit too far overweight. So our ascent profile is going to be ridiculous on this. We are extremely heavy. Oh no, we made a mistake. Apparently, when we added the extra module, our staging got messed up. And I didn't notice it. So, we need to check the staging. We have stage 1. This needs to be down. Or wait, hold on. What is... Why did our staging get messed up? So... That's that. That's that. That's that. That's interesting. Our staging isn't messed up at all. I wonder what happened there. Let's go out to the launch pad and check our staging yet again. Alright. So we're just going to zoom in and double check. Yep. There shouldn't have been any reason that went wrong. Let's just go ahead and launch and see if it repeats the same thing twice. Maybe there was a mistake on that previous launch because I've also got a lot of control back. I'm thinking what might have happened is maybe we tapped X twice on launch as opposed to just once. And that would have skipped a stage. I'm not sure exactly what happened. But I see it's happening again. Alright, something's not right in the vehicle assembly area. What is going on here? Maybe it was the auto strut. These are not reliable connections. I'm not sure where struts are. Let's do this. What we're gonna do is we're gonna strut this down to here. And I'm hoping that'll fix the issue that we're having right now, because I think the struts can be jettisoned later. He said hoping. So let's see if that fixes the problem. We'll do rigid attachments as well. Alright, let's see if that fixes the problem we've been having. I think what happened was we forgot to strut that. And I'm pretty sure the auto strut would have been sufficient. But from what I hear from other Kerbals running their own space stations is that the auto strut is what they call Kraken bait. Which just means it's prone to failures. So I'm thinking what that little bump we kept feeling was actually that docking port failing to hold the lander in place. Which would also account for the lack of control that we would be feeling as we hit 20,000 meters. But that's okay, nobody got hurt. This is why we run simulations and tests before we go on missions. Now, she is a lot more responsive, so we're going to go ahead and start our gravity roll. Not too steep. We're not going to go hard yet. We just want to try to hit that 90-degree marker. And we're going to try to keep it around 10 to 15 degrees. It's really hard to control your ascent on the controller. If you guys are playing on console, let me know. Let me know if you guys have any similar issues maintaining control of your nav ball during launches and maneuvers on the controller. I'm specifically playing on PS5, but I imagine the Xbox is pretty similar in nature. So now that we're hitting 20,000 meters, we're going to try to make sure that we have a little bit more of a aggressive profile. I am by no means a master at launches. I'm still learning. Now, the reason I do this is because I don't have boosters on the boosters to separate them effectively. But that's okay. We can use centrifugal force to fix that problem pretty easily. And then we just get that lower engine started. I'm going to turn it on nice and low just so we have the gimbaling, which will allow us to put us back on a decent heading. Then once I get it about where I want it, we're going to throttle way up and try to start building up more speed. Trying to hold that 90-degree mark as much as possible. You guys can, I don't know if you can hear it very well on YouTube, but on my headphones it's pretty cool because I can hear the rumble of the engine. No, I think my wife broke my headset. Alright, we have a really good apoapsis, so I'm going to nose down much farther. Because even though our apoapsis is actually really fantastic, we need to get this speed up a lot more than what it is. And I've just noticed these two are on the wrong stages. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a stage here and move this up to that. And that'll move that down and it'll fix it. And we can even... maybe. We have a negative clamshell deployment. So let's just deploy it manually before we... And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and deploy our power source. We shouldn't run out of power during this phase, but I would always rather be safe than dead in the water. Now watch as our periapsis starts to come up. We're picking up more than enough speed. And now we are in a very elliptical but stable orbit. Now, what I should have done is right before that periapsis was above the atmosphere, I should have staged this fuel. We don't really have enough fuel left to worry about it. And now we're going to run the risk of leaving junk and debris in orbit around Kerbin. But I'm hoping that we can fix that on the way to the Mun. So what we can do is we can add a maneuver here. We're going to... no. Come on. And we're going to set the Mun as our target. But that means we're going to need to shift our maneuver node over. Oh my goodness gracious, I'm misclicking everywhere. We're going to need to move this over quite substantially. No, maybe not that substantially. So let's... Alright, now lower that down a little bit. Right there. Now we're going to raise that back up, and we're going to add prograde for days and days. And that's all we really need. So... And you know what? This is actually a really good encounter, because what this is going to do is once we get on the way, we can jettison this stage. And this will go all the way around and come back and impact Kerbin. So that way we can be less wasteful. Now let's see. Let's do a little bit of time warping just so I can make sure I know which direction everybody's going. Alright. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come down here. And we're going to pull this way, way down. Maybe back up just a tiny bit. You know what? I like that. That way we can jettison this stage, and it will inevitably impact the Mun. So now we have 15 minutes to wait. So let's use the power of Kerbin technology and wait 15 minutes. I always forget that this stage is insanely slow. So we have to make sure we have plenty of time for the jittery jet to actually maneuver towards its intended target. So there's no reason not to use a little bit of RCS here. We have plenty, and we're not going to use nearly all of it anyway. We can even make sure we keep an eye on all of our stuff here. Now, since this is an 8-minute burn, we're going to do this burn at 4 minutes, and I think we have plenty of altitude to do this in one burn. Normally, you want to double check, because the longer your burn time, the more you're going to probably lose altitude. So if you're cruising at about 80, 75, 80,000 meters and you try a long burn, you're probably going to push yourself back into the atmosphere, because look, we are on our target vector, but we are facing down towards the atmosphere of Kerbin right now. So if this burn was any longer than it is now, you would imagine that you're going to be lowering both your apo and periapsis as you try to do the burn. And if you dip too far into the atmosphere, you're just going to crash. So we're going to go ahead and do the burn. And the reason this burn is such a long burn is because it wasn't exactly an efficient burn, and the fact that the jittery jet is an insanely heavy craft. Well, that sucks. We're gonna leave some space debris. What the hell? What is that? I don't know what that is. And I don't know why this one's not on this stage. We're gonna have to fix that later. So it looks like we're definitely gonna have to do some tinkering. I'm really curious to know what fell off of the ship. I'm really curious to know what came off. Now, the other thing about the lander cam is that we need to test. We could do this test now, actually, because we need to test if these parachutes are enough to slow it down in Kerbin's atmosphere. Because the other cool part about it is it could potentially serve as an emergency escape vehicle for the Kerbals on the lunar orbital base. So that way, if something goes wrong, they should be able to pile in the lander and make it back to Kerbin with no problem. It has almost 4,000 meters per second of delta V for a reason. I'm really curious to know what actually fell off. And keep in mind, even with 5 nuclear engines, she is not going to accelerate super fast. Look at that beautiful approach vector. We're just going to let it ride a little slower. We'll speed it back up because we're actually going pretty slow. Now something seems to be off. But that's okay. I think it's because our burn time was weird. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a mid-course correction. What is the blue, though? You know what? We can work with this. That's okay. We're going to just go ahead and add a maneuver here. And we're going to retrograde the living crap out of this thing. Whoa, not that far. Come on. Now, the other thing we can do at this point is we can set this as our target. That's a little bit lower than I'd like, just because I'm not 100% sure. We want to be above him for now. and that's probably good. But if you guys want to see more, please feel free to check the playlist down below. Keep in mind we go live every weekend. Right now we're kind of doing Saturdays and Sundays, but Saturdays are a sure thing. Sundays are kind of if I have time and if the kids are quiet. And right now the kids are at home. They're off doing some adventuring. So this weekend may be just a video post from the archives. But who knows? A lot of the times they'll be good enough to let me go live. So thank you so much, Jittery, Tetro. All you guys are amazing, and I hope to see you in the next one. But until then, bye-bye.